So the bioeconomy is something we take for granted. It's the use of biological processes to make things that we consume and manufacture. And a circular bioeconomy is where the foodstuffs and others that are the refuse of all of this are recycled and their carbon is used in a new way. And the origin, this has been around for a long time. The reason it's so interesting now is that advances in essentially molecular biology, which again, Walter can talk about at great length, plus the advances in AI have allowed us to do new techniques and grow new things. So for example, concrete. Let me give you an example of things people are working on. A new generation of plastics to degrade and hold harmless compounds in seawater, biologically produced carbon neutral cement and carbon negative commodity chemicals, alternative sources of food protein. I think everybody understands the contribution of cows to the problems we have. Soil microbes that reduce fertilizer use and better bindings of nitrogen to those fertilizing systems. Sequestering more carbon in the soil because of bioengineering of field crops. Textiles, dyes, and other performance materials whose production slashes carbon dioxide. Personal care products, a lot of the things we use have a lot of bad chemicals in them. They can be done in biologically good and safe ways. Lubricants made from locally available and sustainable biomass and biogenic carbon. Think about biomass is all the extra stuff, all the dead wheat chaff and things like that. Compostable dining ware, so that you literally almost eat what you're eating, or the way you're eating. Soy-based roof coating that helps reduce urban heat, and medicines made without relying on petrochemicals. Now, why so important? These things are grown. And when they're grown in a way that addresses the climate change issues, which are very serious. And more importantly, it solves a political problem. 10 years ago, there was this whole thing, everybody kind of remembers the synfuels and all of that kind of stuff. And the problem was that you were entering a competition in a mature market and your prices weren't low enough. So the reason you use things like gasoline now rather than synthetically derived fuels grown from basically grown in ponds is it just didn't work. The newer technologies work because of innovation. So because of the way entrepreneurship works, we're going to have a number of additional unicorns and trillion-dollar companies in this bio area. It'll take 10 or 20 years. There are now small ones that are growing quickly. We'll see how well they do. The key difference is the technology industry is highly concentrated with a small number of people. You don't have a lot of labor compared to other industries. You have huge returns to that labor. We all understand this. In biology and in synthetic biology, which is what I'm talking about, there's a large manufacturing process. The interesting thing, which is what got me so excited about this politically, is these jobs are not in Silicon Valley and they're not in the Northeast. They're in, I'm just going to call them, the Republican states. They're in the states with an awful lot of farming, an awful lot of extra sort of biomass, and each one of those states has leading state agrarian, agricultural universities of one kind or other, which are land grant. All of them, our calculation is 1 million jobs in that part of the world within the US. Now, that is a material political change for America because all of a sudden they're dependent on science. They can't do it from the blue states, and they actually have to build real businesses in those states. I've talked to a number of senators from these states, and they get it. They're smart, right? They understand the potential, right? And what do politicians care about? Creating economies. Now you say, where do the jobs go? So these things are, think about an empty manufacturing plant that used to build ball bearings or whatever your stereotype is. You put what is called a bioreactor inside of the building, and the bioreactor is where this stuff is grown. These things take blue-collar people, whatever the correct term nowadays is, to run them, right, to measure them. And they're finicky, and they're hard, and it's a high-quality job. It's the new industrial age applied to the rural parts of America. The same will be true in Europe, and the same will be true in Asia. Walter talks about the Vannevar Bush's construction, which was that the government did what it did well, which was fund things, create markets. The private sector took risks, and the universities invented stuff. That model is the source of all of the productivity and the wealth since post-war, right? And so somehow we have forgotten that this is the engine of innovation for everything, and the bioeconomy is the same. right? And it's even more so because the computer people like me, we could sort of sneak up on the government, which was a deliberate strategy, I might add, to avoid being regulated. This new stuff is too complicated, it's too important, it touches people, it will be regulated. The regulators need to do the right thing.